Wix Studio, one end-to-end web creation platform for your agency to deliver exceptional work with absolute efficiency.
The #1 long-form writer that helps SEOs outrank competition at the click of a button using real-time research and NLP. Start ranking content today with contentatscale.ai.
Thank you for that. And I'm really, really pleased to be here today to talk to you about one of my favorite subjects, which is around how to run a business without it completely overwhelming you and taking over your life. So like lots of people, I started off my career working for somebody else. And I loved what I did. I absolutely loved it. But as time went on, I got to the point where I sat there and I was like, hang on a minute. I don't want to look back at my life when I'm 60 and just see work. There needs to be more to life than that. There's so many different things I want to do. And so what did I do? I decided to set up my own business, which I did 16 years ago, along with my husband, who also felt a similar way to me. So what happened? Initially, it was great. We had loads of time because we had 0 clients, like you do in the early days. But then as time went on, we started to bring in more clients, and we got more successful, and we got more successful. And then what happened? I ended up right back where I was at the beginning, working all the hours again. And I remember sitting there one day, and honestly, if you'd gone to any iStock website and put in the word overwhelm, that would have been me. Sat on my desk, head in my hands, thinking there has to be a different way to do this. And so fast forward to today, and I've created that. I have a business where I don't have to work all day long. I work as many hours as I need to work, and then I spend the rest of the day doing the things that I love to do. And for me, that means traveling, running, doing all those kinds of things that, light me up, if you like. And you can do that too. Whatever those things are in your life that you want to do outside of work, you can definitely create a business that allows you to do them. So there's this kind of thought behind the fact that when you start a business, everyone thinks you need to be striving to be the next Google, or the next Facebook, or the next BrightonSEO even, right? But that's not necessarily the case for a lot of people. What it comes down to is really understanding what it is that you want in your life. So why not take a little bit of time next week, once you've decompressed from this conference, and just sit down and write out what you'd like an ideal day to look like for you. Now, when I say ideal day, I mean an average ideal day. I don't mean, breakfast with Beyonce, get on my private jet, fly across the world to meet George Clooney for lunch. I mean an actual average ideal day. Because only when you understand what that needs to look like can you plan that into your business. So there's 2 fundamental things that all of you here, I'm sure, know every business should have. The first one is your strategy, which is the brains of your business. This is how it runs, why you exist, where you're trying to go, and what you're trying to achieve. And actually, you'd be amazed how many small businesses out there don't have a strategy. And it can feel really funny, especially if you're a freelancer, for example, and you're sat on your own. It can feel really strange to set up your own strategy for your business, but it's absolutely critical. And then the other things are systems. So the systems are like your veins. This is what makes your business run. It allows you to remove yourself as being the business into that CEO position. It's what allows your business to run like clockwork. So the first exercise, I guess, that I'd like you to do in terms of moving forwards to that work-life balance that you're looking for is to understand what it is that you're doing right now. And you may well have had this task before in a time management course or something like that, but we're going to use the data maybe a little bit differently. So I want you to spend at least a week writing down every single task you do in your workday and how much time that's taking you. And this has to include everything. So if you're scrolling on Instagram, if you're chatting to your mates at the coffee machine, whatever that is, put it in there. There's absolutely no judgment around taking time out away from your desk. That's absolutely fine. And again, this needs to be an average week for you. This isn't like putting my productivity cape on, I'm going to absolutely smash it out the park this week. This has to be what your week generally looks like. Once you have that list, you can then put those into 3 categories. The first categories are those things that you absolutely should be doing as CEO of your business. They're always your income generating tasks. Those things that are going to move the business forward, they align with your strategy, They're the things that make you money, and they're the things that really make a difference going forwards. The second category are things that you can automate. So if you have your systems in place, you can look at those systems and then go out into the world and find the tech that will help you to automate those systems. What I see a lot of businesses doing is they'll go out there, they'll see the shiny new AI tool that's just come onto the market, they'll take that on, and then they'll try and squeeze their business into that tool rather than doing it the other way around. And that can actually cause you some problems. And then the last type of tasks should be everything else. And these are things that you should either be delegating or you should be outsourcing them. So now we know what our tasks are, how can we structure our day in a way that's going to help us achieve more in less time? And when we've done that, again, this is about freeing up time to allow you to choose what you do with that time. It's not about then being able to do loads more work, right? So your income-generating task should be your main priority every day. And this is often the thing that we know we need to be doing, but it's also often the thing that gets pushed back to the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and then we never end up doing it. So you have to make this a priority for your business every single day. Everything else, if you batch these into similar tasks, so things like doing your email, client calls, content creation, all those types of tasks that are similar in the way that you do them or the type of task they are. When you have that batch of tasks, you can then assign the time against them because you know how long it's taking you to do them individually. You'll find when you batch them up, it will take you a lot less time, but for now, just keep that time in there that you've already tracked. And then you can put it into your calendar. Now, you know, for example, probably most people in this room check their email way too much, right? We're answering emails all day long. You need to get into the habit and the discipline of only doing that. I'd say a maximum of 3 times a day, and that's really difficult to do, especially with email. Everything else, work out for yourself how often you need to do it. Is it something you can do once a month? For example, content creation, could you sit down once a month and create all of your content for the next month? There are things you'll need to do on a weekly basis, things you'll need to do on a daily basis. But you'll be able to work that out and then put that into your calendar. Now, there's a couple of things to mention here. You don't want to have a calendar that is literally blocked out from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. or whenever you finish in the evening. That's not what we're trying to do here. You need to leave space in your day, not only because there will be things that come into your day that you weren't anticipating, because that happens to all of us every day, right? But also to allow yourself that freedom. So if you get that chunk of time where you're like, actually, I have nothing that I have to be doing right now, go grab a coffee with a friend. Go do something that lights you up. Go for a walk. Go do something fun for a bit. Just to get used to be able to do something that's not work, right? Because initially, I felt very guilty if I was doing anything outside of my job, right, outside of my business, because I was like, oh, I should be doing, surely there's something I should be doing. So it can take a little bit of time to get used to that. And the other thing that I find really useful is to have like a 15-minute slot between each batch of tasks. So you can get up from your desk, go grab a coffee, go speak to someone in the office, just take time away. Because what that allows you to do is it allows your brain to finish off what you were just doing, have a little respite, and then prepare yourself to get ready for the next batch. And then you'll find you're far more focused than if you just go from one to the next. So people stuff. So Petra and Julie are going to talk loads more about this in their presentations after mine. But there's just a couple of things I wanted to sort of talk about. So my belief is that if you're a business owner, if you're a freelancer and you're making money, you should have at least one person in your team. Now, the reason for this is not only does it free up a little bit of your time, it also helps you hone your management skills. So as you grow, you're starting to learn how to manage people. Because when you move out of the corporate world, it can be difficult at first to try and get those skills and maintain those skills. The other thing is it also frees up a little bit of headspace because you know there's somebody else there with you. You've got someone you can talk to about what's going on in your business. Even if it's like a VA who's working with you a few hours a week, it makes a massive difference. So I have a rule in my business where anything that is going to cost £20 or less, I outsource it. Now, in your business, this might be different, But again, it takes a decision making out of this for me, because I know if this task is going to cost 20 quid or less an hour, I'm just going to outsource it and get somebody else in who has the right skill set to do that job. So one thing I get asked a lot is when to employ somebody and when to outsource. Now, when we first started our business, we went down the very traditional route where it was like, right, I need to employ somebody, because that's what you do, right, when you've got a business. But actually, it didn't work very well for us. When we took on our first employee back in 2008, way back in 2008, we tried to take somebody on who could do lots of different things in our business. But actually, trying to find someone with that massive range of skills was unrealistic. And so we ended up having to create work for them to do because we didn't have enough of the thing that they were good at to do in their business at the time. So it really didn't work that well for us. So what we suggest now is that you start off by outsourcing, you find the people that have the specific skill set that you're looking for, and then as the need for that skill set grows, then look to employ somebody, if that's what you want to do. A couple of things that are really obvious to mention, but actually it's common how many times I see this not happening, is to make sure that you have clear communication with these people, whether they're employed or they're outsourced. Because one of the biggest complaints I get from people when they outsource is that the quality of work isn't as good. They misunderstood what I needed. But actually, when you go back to it, it's the communication in the first place that's lacking. And you need to get really good at structuring your tasks so that when you're outsourcing to somebody else, they know exactly what they're doing. And let them see your systems that you have, your processes, so that they can follow those and they understand a little bit more about your business. And then the last thing is just to look after them. And again, really obvious. But I've seen businesses where they have outsourced people who don't really know what's going on in the business. They're just given a task and left to get on with it. So bring them into your business. Let them know what you're doing. Let them see what your strategy is all about. So boundaries. This is something that we all struggle with as business owners. I'd certainly do. Even now, I still struggle with this one. Because we set up a business because we want to do good, right? We want to help people. We want to create value. And so when somebody's given us a call, or they're sending us an email, or a text, or whatever it might be, we want to be there to help them. We want to answer that communication. We want to solve that problem. But actually, when you start to get busier and you have more and more clients on board, that starts encroaching into your evening, into your weekends, into your holiday time, and it's not sustainable. And it's a surefire way to burn out and to feel like you have to be on it 24/7. So be clear with people about your boundaries. When are you going to be available and when aren't you? And make sure you stick to this. And if you struggle with it, then I'd suggest at least using your income generating task, your main task of the day, and just letting everybody know that between 10 and 12 every day you are not available. But you have to stick to it, because if you don't, people will start to expect that you're not going to stick to it, right? And so when you then don't reply to them, it can cause a little bit of friction. What you'll also find, as this lovely iStock photo displays, you have a very happy team there that will just get on with stuff without you. And they won't need to feel like they have to come to you and validate their decision making or ask you questions about things that they can probably sort out on their own. So decision fatigue. Now, there's been loads of research done that shows that there's only a certain number of decisions we can make in our day before that decision-making capability starts to degrade. And this is really important if you're running a business, right? So there's things that we can do to try and mitigate that. The first thing is, in and outside of your business, to try and habitualize stuff. So having a morning routine, I know it's something that's talked about a lot, but it takes away the need to make decisions about trivial things in your day. So, have the same thing for breakfast every day. Make sure you're working out on the same day every week. Take the same route to work. These are all things you can make into habits in your day so that when you need to make those decisions, your brain is functioning at its best. You can use the things I've already talked about in terms of, time blocking, the way you manage your tasks, so that you don't have to make decisions about those things either. You get into the office in the morning and it's like, right, what am I doing today? You already know. You already know what your to-do list looks like because you've already worked it out. That allows you to make sure that when those difficult decisions need to be made at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that you're not exhausted, that your brain is still functioning at an optimum, and that you're only keeping that decision-making muscle for those things that really matter. So how many people here have read the book Eat That Frog? A couple. So for those that haven't read it, what it basically says is that when you start your working day, you should tackle that big task first, that meaty, uncomfortable task, that IGT task, which is often the one that you don't really want to be doing because it's difficult, and it takes a lot of concentration, takes a lot of focus. Now, I tried that, and I found out that it just didn't work for me. I found that I would end up very distracted. I was thinking about what was in my inbox, about all the other things that I had to do that day. So what I found really works for me is I spend the first hour of my day doing my email and my admin. And that means that when I go into that big task of the day, I'm fully prepared to focus on it, and I can focus much more clearly. Now, that might work for you, that might not work for you. But I think it's worth saying that, there's loads of advice out there. I've talked about quite a few things today that you can implement in your business. There's loads of business books, loads of different podcasts you can listen to. There is so much information out there about how to do this stuff. And I think the reason people don't do it is not because of lack of information, it's because people are so overwhelmed with the differing advice. So the main thing you need to do, I think, is just to try this stuff out. Find out what works for you, experiment. If it doesn't work, put it to one side, tweak it, try something else. But don't give up, because I'm a prime example of the fact that this can work for you, right? If you do this stuff, you can achieve that work-life balance that you want. And freeing up time doesn't necessarily mean that you have to sit there on your backside watching Netflix, right? It might mean that you get to travel a lot more and see the world. See, I travel all the time. I'm taking nearly 30 flights this year, part for work, part for enjoyment. But I'm always working while I'm away too, right? I work a few hours pretty much every day, and then I get to spend the rest of the day going and seeing some wonderful places, and I travel the world all the time. You might want to spend time with your kids. If you've got young kids, you can feel like you're on this treadmill of work, get home, get the kids fed, into bed, exhausted, on the sofa, get up, do it all again. I've been there, and that was one of the drivers for me starting the business in the first place. Or it might be friends. You might want to spend time with friends. You might want to go see your parents. Whatever it is, it will free up time to allow you to do that. Or you can take up hobbies. You can try something new. You might want to learn the piano. You might want to learn a new language. You might just want to take up some crazy running events, or whatever it is you want to do. The opportunity is there for you to be able to do it. You don't need to get into that position that you might feel like now, where you're just saying, I just don't have time for that. This is all about giving you the freedom to make choices about what you do, right? So it might mean even that you take on a new business venture. You might add a new service to your business. You might start a new business. You might write a book. You might go around the world doing some speaking gigs, or whatever it is that lights you up. It doesn't necessarily mean, if you love to work, it doesn't necessarily mean you can't work in that time either. It's all about giving you the freedom to choose how you want to spend your life. So go and make that million, and thank you very much for listening.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.